Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth-running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the information on last week's show, How to Properly Handle Meeting Minutes, informative. If you are unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on our YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as links for multiple favorite podcast platforms. If you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. If there are topics you'd find beneficial or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me at media@abandp.com. Now, let's learn a little bit about our guest today. Kimberly Deshields won't tell you that she created and ran a successful lemonade stand when she was 7 years old. Even then, she knew how to take the lemons in her life and make money. She spent over 2 decades cultivating her particular brand of expertise. Kimberly Deshieldspencer is the award-winning founder and CEO of You Impact, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, Forbes contributor, philanthropist, podcast host, and highly sought-after marketing and branding consultant who trains and speaks to organizations and business owners who want to understand what it means to reach beyond what they think is possible in their professions by reaching beyond the limits they find in themselves. She cares about people and the results that she can help them garner by creating individualized and effective action plans to accomplish their goals. Kimberly Deshields-Spencer has developed a knack for having her cake and eating it too. And the best part is she loves to teach others to do the same. So Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you back, as I had you about a year ago, I believe, talking about some of the expertise that you have, but I would love to have you share a little bit more. But before we do, I wanted to have you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into what you do, especially for those who didn't catch that last interview.
Of course. Well, I started in business, kind of like my bio says, 7 years old, but I actually formally became in business around 19. And I started working with professional speakers, and I would handle their marketing and their branding for them. And I did that for a number of years. And while it was great and big educational learning experience, what I realized was that I was setting up people for a disadvantage, if you will, because they didn't know how I was marketing. They didn't know really how to brand themselves. They really relied on me for everything in that space. And so I hit a wall one day and decided that I just didn't want to do this anymore. I really love the idea of showing people what to do in their own way, in their own voice, so that they could be empowered to know how to market themselves and not depend on someone else to do it for them. So that's kind of how You Impact got started about 24 years ago.
Very nice. And I think that's so important too, because there is enough work out there for us anyway, right? And if you can give someone some tips to help them, and then for the other things that they really are going to need help with, they can come to you, but you're giving them something to help them be successful.
Exactly. I think it's just important always to, like you said, there's always so much out there for everyone. And we show people, but we also are hired to run the marketing for different companies. But even in that, we still are showing them what we're doing. We're showing them our process. We're making them an active participant in it, because in the event something changes, they still need to be able to move forward with or without us. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's other things to focus on in your business besides, having to do all of that. We have, as entrepreneurs, we have tons of hats, but if they do want to focus on their branding, how does a business owner even know what to focus on when they're building their brand?
I think the first thing that I always tell people is they have to really understand what they want their position in the market to be. I think so often when someone's either starting a business or they're starting to rebrand their business, they're looking at what everyone is doing, and that sometimes can muddle what you're actually wanting to do, if that makes sense. I think you have to sit there and really just kind of quiet the noise around you, if you will, and think about, who is it that I want to be in the marketplace? Who is it that I want people to associate me as? Are you going to be someone that's creative and innovative? Are you going to be someone that's more like straight and narrow, and which is not a problem either. You know, if that's your thing, black and white, no problem. But really defining what it is that you want to be. And then from there, looking at what fits you and how you like to show up in the world. Like, for example, if you're very introverted, probably going to huge events is not going to probably be the best option for you, but maybe smaller events may be the best option for you for marketing.
Right.
Maybe if you're very extroverted, you know, coming out there with a big splash may not be the most effective necessarily, but maybe coming out there in a creative way to where people can see you and hear you and not just kind of feel like all of the exuberance coming out, you know? So just really finding what fits your voice and your way, I think is so key before you even start marketing and start branding.
Right. And I think when we first start our businesses, we think it's, you know, just us and we want it to be comfortable for us. But I've heard so many different things too. Just because you like the colors or the fonts isn't right for you either, because you have to think about your, you know, ideal customer who's going to see it. But also, what about like someone like me now, right? I started out as, you know, just a sole proprietor, just me doing all the work. It was, you know, my company, but it was just me. But now I have a team, and over time, you know, I'm going to want to be less and less maybe the person that is seen for the company. You know, I wanted to be able to be where I can go on a vacation and it could just do things without me. So at what point do you really look at something for the company versus something as you, who is the company? You know what I mean?
Right. You know, that's a really good question. I think there was a time where many of us started off in that way where we're thinking about just us before we start building our teams out. But I think now we're in a really great age where we can actually think of company, like think of like the end at the beginning, if that makes sense. Like where do we want to end up being? So whether you have a team or not now, think about the company as a whole, because I think now with everything that's happened, work life, if that's such a thing, balance is such a thing or not, but looking at the quality of what you really want to build is so key. So even now, look at your company. Do you want to factor in that if you have a team, if you want to take vacations, if you want to do X, Y, and Z, build that out early on so that it's something that you can do from the beginning and it becomes something that becomes the fabric of what you're building. And I think that's something that's a different way of looking at building today. Because as entrepreneurs, you and I both know, many years ago, it was kind of like you throw everything in there, just build, and then you didn't really have a quality of life, you know? So I think now we can build with that factored in, you know, like, hey, I want to take some vacations and want my team to still keep, you know, running forward, or have a business where you can take some time off and enjoy what you're actually building.
Right. So if someone started out like me originally too, who thought, oh, I like this, and, you know, this is what it's going to be. And now, you know, they're larger, they have a team, and they're thinking they don't want to be just the face of the company themselves. Like, what would you recommend in terms of how they would change what that brand looks like? Do they talk to their own employees and get ideas? Do they, you know, talk with someone like you that can help them figure out, like, where is it you want to go? How do you want to be seen? Like, what would be that step?
All of it. I think everything you said. I think, you know, obviously if you have a team in place right now, it's good to always ask their feedback, because in reality, you know, with you being the CEO of the company, you want their feedback into it. I think also a really great place to look at what is it that you're offering? Look at your services and ask yourself, is it positioned to where you're not having to be tied to it all the time? Because all of your offerings is tied to you in some fashion, they can be a little bit harder to break away. So I would look at obviously what your offerings are, but I would also look at your systems. I would look at how are things being processed? What are the different systems in place to where can things run without you being present? And I think that's a good area to kind of look at that. Like even for us, you know, we have programs where I work with people one-on-one, but I also cross-train my team, those who want to be specifically like in the marketing space, on different things that our clients need, so that I can step away and my clients not only dependent upon me, that they're comfortable with my other team members as well. And that has been a game changer for us over the last few years, making sure that certain key team members are cross-trained in a way that the client still gets the quality that they're looking for.
Right, exactly. So obviously there's so much marketing out there, and especially now a lot of people are using social media. There's, you know, you still have newsletters going out. What is it that business owners can do to be seen and kind of cut through all of the distractions that are out there?
I think right now video is obviously very, very strong in our platform today. But I think one of the biggest thing, and I think it's still there no matter what season we're in, is content. Like to me, you grab people's ear, you grab their attention when the content feels fresh and new. Like, for example, there's people who still use SWOT analysis, if you will. That's a very common term in career and even in business. But could you look at your business and see how you can update the SWOT? Maybe you use a different acronym, maybe you use a different process or something that's more your own. Like, I think when you can change content that people are used to seeing and refresh it, make it current, and put a different spin on it, maybe a creative spin that people have never thought about. I think that cuts through more than anything.
Right. That's a really good idea.
Social media. Well, it's a great way to, just to kind of, because I think people are, well, you know how it is when people say they're going to go to an event and it's like, oh, it's the same old, same old. I'm going to hear the same thing. But what if you say something different? What if you offer a different perspective? Immediately that causes someone to say, I need to plug into this person. And so that I can stay around them a little bit more. And I think that's a big thing, cutting through with content.
Right. And I would love for you just to touch on your definition of what brand is, because I know sometimes there's a little bit of confusion. So what would you say to somebody who is saying, yes, I want to, start a company, and yes, I know I need to have some type of brand. What really is that brand?
Oh, that is a great question. I think it depends too on what you're really trying to build, because there's some people who are building a solo business. So the brand is really tied to you because you're going to be the face, you're going to be the person behind it. And then like for example, we have a company that we started called Soy Parvis, and that's not tied to my identity per se, but it is tied to my values. So when I look at the brand, I look at what is it that we're trying to cultivate with this company and what is it that we're trying to put out there. And obviously with the name sewing. So we look at that. So it's two-sided. If you're building a personal brand and you're going to be like a consultant, you're thinking you're going to be more of a business of one, then look at what your brand speaks about you, because you are your brand. You are your voice. And so that's how people are going to know you by your name. If you're starting off building, like I said, a company, think about the values, think about what you want it to represent, and then everything is shaped around there. The marketing, the website, the visuals is shaped around what you want people to know you as. So it really, in both sides of it, is defining your voice and also defining your position in the market.
So when someone has looked at all of that and said, okay, this is what I want my brand to be, whether it's, again, themselves or they're creating something for a company, and they start, putting marketing pieces out there, how do they even know that brand is even effective?
Ooh. To me, any branding and marketing is effective when you get a good response. And a response meaning, even if the response is that people are asking you more questions, like, okay, well, help me understand. That tells you that one, you did something to grab their attention, but it also means there's areas of clarification needed. But if you get zero response, zero engagement, it feels like you're landing in the midst of crickets, not hearing anything, then you're not being as effective. I also think the other side of that question is give yourself time to be effective. Because often, we will put something out there for a couple of weeks and not get the response that we're hoping for. And then the assumption is, okay, this is not working, so let me try something else, versus taking what you're doing and saying, well, maybe this is the wrong season to launch this. Maybe I shouldn't launch it in January when everybody's launching it. Maybe it should be more, February or March. So sometimes it's not so much the concept of the program or even the service. It could just be the timing. It could be when you're positioning it. So I think really giving it time to be effective is very, very key.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking too. Like, well, okay, if something's not working, how do you know what it is that isn't working? Is it the message? Is it that you're on the wrong platform? Is it, like you said, is it the wrong time? Like, how would someone even determine, like, okay, it's not working the way I want? How would they even find the root cause?
It always goes back to messaging. It will always go back to that, because you can put something in whatever kind of colors. And I know people have a different color theory with it, but at the end of the day, it goes back still to the messaging and the content. Because I'm your audience, but I'm not understanding what you're saying, I don't get what you're trying to offer, I'm not intrigued by what you have to say, then that means that your messaging isn't reaching me. So I would go back and look at the messaging. Although this is an old school concept, I still use it. You can always do a focus group with the people that you're trying to attract. Like ask them different questions, not friends and family, but people that you're trying to attract and say, does this grab your attention? And if it does, why or why doesn't it? And that way you can get a real good feedback on if something is really effective. Because to me, Candy, the best messaging is always going to get some type of response. It is.
Right. And that's a great idea to asking someone. And so would you do that through an actual like survey? Would you actually try to get a group of people in a room? And if so, if you're trying to get them together in a room, like how would you go about identifying and inviting them and getting them all into, that one space?
Well, you can do it live, obviously, but you can also do it too on Zoom. You can do like a group thing and have different people come together and say, hey guys, I would love to present something to you and would love your feedback. And sometimes that's really kind of fun too, because you'll hear someone say, well, I think this, and then you hear someone else saying, like, oh, I never thought about that. Have you considered this? So it can be a really fun group kind of project. It works the same way in live. And what I would do is obviously go through people that your colleagues that and say, hey, I'm launching this. Do you know people in this area? And then if someone says, yes, hey, I'm willing to be a part of it. Well, obviously, if they're a part of your ideal group, then ask them too. Do you have a couple of people? So it's kind of like a trickle down effect. So that way you get a good group of people that can give some real good feedback.
So having that conversation through whether it's Zoom or at some point when people can meet in person again, if they can still, is better than just sending like a questionnaire or survey or something. So because you're getting that interaction and bouncing ideas off of each other.
I think so, because I'm obviously a marketer. So I always have questions. So if someone says this is really, really good, well, my next question is, why is it good? Like what makes it good? Or is it good, or does it compel you to do something? So questions like that, it allows people to have more of a conversation, because on a survey, if you ask all the questions you probably really want to ask, people are not going to answer it because it'll become long. So if someone says, this is a beautiful website, it gives you the opportunity to say, what makes it beautiful? What stands out? So you can ask more of the clarifying questions, and you'll be able to get also their reactions. I'm really big on the reactions too. I want to see if a page is meant to be encouraging, do they pause on it? Do they reflect on it differently, or do they pass it by and say, oh, that was great, and keep going? Like I can judge that too. So for me, it's a combination of all those little things. So I'm not a big online surveyor. I like more live and more conversations.
That's good to know, because I know I've answered questions for quite a few people over the last, couple of years, let's even say, where someone's like, I'm thinking of creating this logo. Which color do you like? Which font do you like? And I recently did one for someone that was going to be putting a product into a store, and they were saying, what phrases do you like? What catches your attention? So I did that, and hopefully, that's helpful. But I do like where you're saying, where someone could say something about, oh, I really like this color because, and someone else can give feedback or something too. I think that's really nice.
Yeah, it helps. And I think it also goes back to the, the other question you asked too about, the branding. I think it also fits too with what kind of best word I can use is business person you are. Like I love personal touches. So for me, having that conversation and talking to someone really fits me better. But if someone's very introverted and that's just not their thing, live events and doing a call with a bunch of people, then definitely do as a survey if it fits better for you. I think it just really goes back to what really feels good to you and which method would get you the response you really need to be effective.
Right. And do you think the person, like the entrepreneur themselves, should be the one that's actually doing that focus group and asking the questions? Or is it better to hire someone, like yourself or, another person that's maybe really well experienced in leading those focus groups and how to draw out that information? What would you recommend?
I would always lean towards the person, the entrepreneur, because your business best, your product best. But I also will say too, you got to be prepared to hear the feedback that you are asking for. I think that becomes another thing. There is the feelings become attached, and if someone says, oh, this is horrible, and I've seen this happen before, and the person gets really emotional about it, you got to be prepared for the feedback you need to be effective. So if that's something that is not comfortable for someone, then have someone on your team. someone that's still connected to your brand or connected to you in some way, and they understand what you're building to be able to effectively position that in front of the group for you.
Yeah, I think that's good advice too, because like you said, you are connected, but sometimes you can, like, this is your baby, right? So if someone says something, it could be a little bit difficult to hear, but it's important. Like you said, if you're going to market and reach the audience that you want to reach, you really need to be able to have the right product or service and be, getting that information from those potential customers is important.
Exactly.
That's great.
Very true.
So if someone has a brand that's working right now, like what can they do to make sure that continues to work over time?
You know what? The best way to always continue is the customer's experience. Like, it's so hard to always acquire new customers, truthfully. And I think you keep enhancing the people that are with you experiences. Even past clients that maybe they work with you and whatever their need is completed, still check in with them. Like, I still send cards, I still check in with people, because I never want anyone to feel like they were just a client, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, I really want them to know that I am genuinely invested in their growth. I love seeing them win, even if our time is over. Those experiences matter to me. And making sure that they feel like it wasn't just a transactional situation, because obviously those people may still go back and refer people to you. Your current clients will refer people to you. And so to me, experiences is the very thing that keeps people coming and keeps your business running.
I think it's, there's just so many things to think about, when you're doing this too. Like, what does it take to really keep things going long term? And again, things change over time too. So it's at one point, do you say, well, I need to refresh kind of the image of the company or the brand or the services? Like, what do you tell someone then who's maybe been in business 10, 15, 20, 25 years? Like, at what point should they really think about maybe changing something a little bit?
I think when they get to that question, they need to change something. Whenever you've been doing something for so long and you're feeling that itch to say, I need a refreshing, I need to do something different, that's when you need to challenge yourself differently. Like, I've been doing my core business for 24 years, but I also have 3 other businesses that I've been doing for a couple of years now. And then one we're getting ready to launch again. And I keep myself challenged, but all of them are still under marketing and branding in some facet. So I find ways to keep myself challenged, to keep myself excited. And the thing is even if your core business is still over here, you find ways to appreciate it even more so as you're building in other areas. So I think there's nothing wrong with challenging yourself, asking yourself, what can I do right now to refreshen it? And ask yourself the hard questions too. Has this run its course? Is it time for me to look at another direction to go? And if that's yes, then obviously that yes will take you to where you need to go. If it's no, then look at, well, what do I need to do to make it more where I'm at today? Because you and I both know, Candy, what we started off in our businesses from day one, we're different women from men.
For sure. I'm a grandma now. I wasn't a grandma when I started my business, right?
Right. I was not married. I did not have kids. So it's a totally different thing. So like I know you're really big on family like I am. So even in what I'm building, and people always ask me, how do you have all these different businesses and you still make family priority? To me, I start with that. That is important to me, doing the 5 o'clock dinners or whatever time period, but we do believe in family dinners and traveling and spending time. You make that a priority, and no matter what it is that you're building. So you can still keep challenging yourself and not compromise yourself.
Right. I think it's important too, to determine what the business is for you too, in the long run. I know that's not potentially like on the marketing topic per se, but like you said, I've been in business for a while. When I started, my kids were young, and now I have, my daughter's married with 2 children. And so, yes, my life has changed. And yes, the business is still, my source of income and all of that. And I still love what I do, but at the same time, I have grandbabies I want to be able to spend time with. And, that's important to me. So I think too, like you're saying, just figuring out like, what is it that you want your business to be doing for you? And then how do you continue to promote that? And for me, like I said, I have a team. And so I have been actively, building that team so that they can be the ones running the company. So I'm not necessary.
Yes.
And that's why I'm thinking I want to make sure that people just don't think of me in the business, even though I've been running it for so long.
Yes.
That's what's important to me too, is, my staff is intelligent and they know their stuff and they can help you too,
Exactly.
So,
And that's a trainable thing too, to let people know who are so tied to you. Because when you do start, it is you. They know you.
Right.
And it's not the best way I want to word it, but I've had to train clients to trust my team and to trust that they can equally take care of them too. And that was a process, honestly, for a couple of years to make sure that, and some of that comes with, as running your company is helping them steer back to saying, well, so-and-so can help you too. And that way it kind of allows them the, I think, encouragement, to know that they are trusted by us, to take care of the clients that are coming to the company, but it gives you that time freedom that you are in this season of your life needing, so I think people, if they remember that, it's possible, very much so.
Right, exactly. So what are some of the challenges then that people are facing today with their brands? Like I even was just discussing one, right? It used to be me, now it's the company, and I want to, be able to have that, not be just me, but I'm sure there's lots of things that are challenges. So what would be a few of those?
I think some of the things I hear the most is many people feel like everything's already been done. People feel like everything's been taught, everything has been put out there. And I think that right there already is the wrong mindset to have. And maybe wrong, I shouldn't say wrong, but I think that if you can't look at something in your industry and find new and innovative ways, it can hinder your brand. It can be, sometimes it's just the slightest tweak. I think you see so many companies now who have done really creative things with their particular positionings because they found a way to make something fresh. So I feel like one of the biggest things is don't make the assumption that everything's already been done. The world is changing so fast. Business is changing so much. And even if content is out there, because I hear it all the time, Candy, that people are like, well, everything's already out there. They can Google it. You can Google a lot of things, but you don't know how to always apply it to your situation.
Right.
And I think that's the key, is that they hire you to help them with their situation. They can look up bookkeeping and payroll and things of that nature, but they may not know how to apply all those terms and apply all the different things. And I think that's where you can come in differently. So I think if people not make that assumption, to me, that's key. And then second, make sure that you are being relevant. I think so often it's so comfortable to be comfortable, to keep offering the same things, doing the same things, but not even challenging yourself to be creative and innovative, So I think that's even more vital for the growth of your company. So those are a couple of things for branding wise, is make sure that you stay fresh, stay relevant, keep yourself in a place of growth, because then your brand will keep growing as well. Because even in marketing branding, I swear, I think it changes like every month. Sometimes the different things that are out there and it's new, but on the same token, I look at what's happening, but I look at what's applicable to me, what's applicable to my brand, and what's applicable to us to be able to grow. And then from there, you implement. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think what I was thinking of while you were talking about that too is, like the restaurant industry. I actually have a lot of restaurant clients, and they were, of course, severely impacted by COVID, and especially in the LA area, they were shut down for such a long time. And when they were supposedly going to be able to open outdoors, and they spent all this money on doing stuff, and then they got shut down again, right? Where you couldn't do that. And so they've had to adapt. And some people were doing like cooking classes now, so you could learn to do the cooking. And I know some people might have been afraid, like, well, if I teach them how to do that, they're not going to come back to my restaurant and buy from me. But we might have learned how to make a recipe, but that doesn't mean we want to make it all the time, right? So if there's a favorite thing that we have and you're excellent at it, we're still going to want to go out and pick that up from you and buy it. Yes, it's great to have had that education, but there's a lot of things that people could learn how to do or could look up on the internet, like you said, but they're not going to want to apply that to their business and do it themselves or so I'm
with you. I think so many things were made simpler, if you will, during COVID, but the same token, we all miss getting our nails done. And I know there's companies that offer certain things now. So I think there's different things, like you said, that we could do. But we enjoy going out and getting them done.
Right. Yeah. We don't want to have to do it all. That's why we look for other people too, to help us, right? Because we're told we're supposed to be delegating, offloading. We don't want to take it all back. We might have had to do some things for a
Exactly.
while, but we don't want to have to do it all. So yeah, I
Exactly.
think it's just good. Like you said, just look for ways, and it's not always easy, but if there's some way that you can still, put the information out there. I even find, for my industry, sometimes I think people think, oh, it's boring, it's numbers, it's compliance, it's whatever, but I'm still trying to educate people so that they know what they should be doing or what's available to them, so they could take advantage of, like I said, the credits that are available, or make sure you do this so you don't have a penalty, because you don't always know what you don't know. So if I could put the information out there and share it and help the business owner be successful. I mean, that's why I have all different people even on this podcast, right? Marketing is not in my industry, but I want the entrepreneurs to be successful. So I want to make sure that I share that information with them. So I think that's important too. So anyway, I know there's a lot I don't know about marketing. I obviously have been asking questions as I think of them, but are there some tips that you would share that maybe I didn't know to ask that can help the entrepreneur kind of down this journey, or any other information you think would be helpful for them that I just didn't know what to ask?
No, it's a great question. One of the things I would like to share is, so often we always talk about all the noise, cutting through the noise. And I would challenge people not to look at the noise as noise. I think that there's a lot out there. There's still so much business out there for you, but don't be afraid to be you in your market, because the people that really understand you and like what you're doing are going to gravitate towards you. Like I have a client she's so fun and she's so creative, and her mascot for her business is a flying pig. And so many people would not work with her at all because they're just like, what? Like a flying pig. She has a name for it. She has it in a logo and everything. But here's the thing. We branded it. We marketed it because it was a part of her personality. It was a part of a childhood story that meant a lot for her. And her business is amazing. But she was afraid to put it out there because she didn't think people would take her seriously. She's an organizer. So a pig, organize doesn't seem to make sense. But it made a lot of sense when we were able to kind of package it in a way that really fit her. And I think people should not be afraid to be who they are in their market. I think that people need to, or I will encourage people not to feel like you have to be a part of every platform. Not every platform is yours. It's just not. It can cause more fatigue than anything if you're trying to do everything in every market, but master one or two. Like really master that and see where your messaging, your content takes you from there. So those are probably the two main things I would say is really don't be afraid of your voice, and at the same token, don't feel like you have to do everything. I think there's a process to everything. So find the ones that work best for you. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, this has been great. I know we're just kind of seeing the very tip of the iceberg. I know there's probably like tons more of information that you could be sharing. But again, I just really wanted to have like an interview to just go over some of the tips of what people could be thinking about for their brands, what they should be doing, and what, maybe when they need to make some changes, just to give them some information. But I'm sure you have something that you could offer to them that would be helpful as well. So I would love for you to share anything that you have that you would like the listeners to be able to take advantage of.
Well, obviously, I have our company, UImpact. You can find all the different services that we offer there for you. We're also, and I would love to share this too, launching another option that could be really helpful for people. A few years ago, and Candy, you may remember this, we launched Behind Her Brand. And so we paused it for a number of years and we're bringing it back. And so it launches in about 2 weeks. And so it's going to be a new platform where it's going to be a lot of branding and marketing from different business owners and their journeys. And so maybe that could be helpful to people when they're trying to figure out how come things are not working. And like you're providing on this incredible platform, for people to share their experiences and share their expertise. And so we're going to be doing the same thing through our new magazine. So.
Nice. So if someone wants to connect with you, how can they reach you? If you have your website or a phone number or social media channels, like how would they?
All of it. The best way is probably go straight to UImpact. Is UIMPACT.net. And right there on that platform, lists everything that we do, every business that we have and all of our services. They can find us right there.
Nice. Well, thank you, Kimberly, so much for being a guest on my show and sharing your expertise. I really appreciate it.
No, well, thank you for allowing me to come back. I appreciate this time.
It's been good. And I do want to thank the listener also for tuning into this episode. I hope you found the topic interesting and that it did answer some questions about your 3 pillars for your marketable brand. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Kimberly at the links she shared or send us a message at media@abandp.com. And would you please share our show information with those you know? I'd greatly appreciate your support. I hope you can join us for next week's topic, the importance of clarity of your vision. And please remember you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. You can find the podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next Tuesday. Have a terrific week.